Okay, today is July 3rd, also known as the best day of my entire life. Okay, so last week we were fortunate enough to have Carl join us. Went through his topic. It was great. And a couple of you have contacted me, and I talked to Carl a couple days ago. There's just a couple of referrals coming, which is cool because that's part of the reason we do this. And I super appreciate all the speakers coming on. And some of them have an opportunity for referrals and some of them don't. But I think that's excellent. So thank you for your support, Carl. And hopefully whatever happens from here forward works out for those potential clients. One of the things that happened in last week's discussion was Carl was telling his small story, as you might remember. And I thought about this after we were done, and then I got a call from Chris, and we've talked a little bit, and I kind of connected the dots, and I thought, this is a video opportunity and a spreadsheet opportunity, which has also turned into, lucky you, a door prize opportunity. So what I've done is I have built a spreadsheet that you are going to get. I'm going to put it in the chat here in just a minute. And I shot a video. It's actually two videos. The first part of the video is just me kind of jibber-jabbing and explaining what this is and giving the background. I know you guys have seen this, but I'm going to have you watch the video. It's about 6 minutes long. And I want your opinion because it's eventually going to be a video that I put out on the social media channels. The second part of the video is showing how to use this tool. And I'll just do that with you guys live today. So the first thing I do is to show you this video. If you go to the doesitpencil.com website, the first thing you'll see at the top of the page is the slogan. And the slogan is how to make decisions about money. Now, if you just stop and think about that, that's a pretty important thing to learn how to do in life. How do you make decisions about money, whether it's your money or somebody else's? And that's the heart and soul of Does It Pencil. And the reason I think that is so important, and one of the reasons that I've really made this a large part of my life's work, is that a lot of people have never had someone sit down and tell them, if you do A, B, and C, then you're going to get D. Okay, this is just how the world works. And this is all just basic analysis, basic math. There's no politics involved in it. It's just the stuff that we need to know. And Does It Pencil started as a real estate class, and the conversation expanded to a broader conversation that anybody can be a part of about money, investing, wealth creation, and decision making. So we had a set of courses. You can check those out at doesitpencil.com. But the other thing that we do now is a Friday webinar. And that is a chance for anybody who's taken the courses to show up, be a part of the discussion. There's a presentation every Friday. You get access to me, and there's other member benefits as well. And it's just $5. If you want to check it out, go to doesitpencil.com/society. It's all right there. We have lots of videos. We have a Spotify podcast. And if you would like to just come and check it out for free, you can do that as well. Okay, that's all on the website. Anyway. So one of the things that I do every couple of weeks usually is bring in a guest speaker. And so we had this guest speaker recently, this guy named Carl. And Carl's deal is taxes. And what Carl does is he helps high net worth people defer, delay, or sometimes avoid paying certain kinds of taxes. Very interesting discussion. He's very good at what he does. Everybody really liked it. And so Carl's making his presentation. At one point, he starts telling this little story about a young woman who's referred to him. She's like 26 or 27, something like that. And this young woman had saved like $100,000, babysitting, not going to Starbucks, all the stuff that anybody who's 26 or 27 does to get to a point where they have $100,000. So she's sitting on this money, and then she's like, well, what do I do with this money? So she talks to some different people, stocks, Bitcoin, whatever. And so finally someone said to him, you should go talk to this Carl guy. He's pretty good, knows what he's doing. So Carl sits down and talks to her and listens to her story. And at one point he says to her, well, you can take your $100,000 and you can go buy stocks or whatever and, make somewhere 4, 6, 10%, something like that. But if you take that same $100,000, You could buy a house. And if that house goes up, say, 4% a year, you'd be making $20,000 a year. If the stocks just went up 4% a year, you'll be making $4,000 a year. Now, let me stop there. This is an important point. That's leverage. Okay? And leverage is a really important thing. In fact, if you don't have leverage, you won't create wealth. Let me say that again. If you don't have leverage, you won't create wealth. Leverage is an integral part of wealth. And leverage is about two things. It's about control and it's about appreciation. And that really is the real estate model. And that's why so many people have created so much wealth through real estate. I mean, there's other reasons too, but that's a big one. And that's the one that's sort of available to everybody. Okay. If you can control a large asset with a little bit of money, i.e. a down payment, and that large asset goes up in value, then you win. Okay. And sometimes you win very big. So I like the fact that Carl brought that up. Okay. He didn't call it leverage. I'm telling you now, that's what it is. But that's one of the things we talk about in Does It Pencil? Okay. It's one of the many things that you need to know, again, to make the right decisions about money. Okay. So about a day later, might have been 2 days later, I'm talking to one of our members of the society, and he's taken Does It Pencil, and he's a good guy, great salesman, friend of mine. And so we're talking jibber-jabber about whatever it was. And at one point he says, I really like Carl. He made a great presentation. I'd refer business to him. But the thing Carl forgot to say was, if you went and sold that house, say, after 5 years, what about the loan payoff? What about the commissions? What about the closing costs? Blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, you're right. And he was right. So what I did was I sat down and I built a spreadsheet to show how this exactly works. Okay. Now, I'm not Mr. Spreadsheet, but I'm pretty good at spreadsheets, and I use them, and I built a lot of them for Does It Pencil. And the great thing about a spreadsheet is that if you build it the right way, it can take complex decision-making and make it very simple. It reduces or eliminates human error from a calculator, and you can run what-if scenarios very quickly. So I built a spreadsheet to prove or disprove what Carl was saying, and it's terrific. And I'm going to show it to you. But before I do, I'm going to say one other thing. I mentioned something about this Does It Pencil Society. And as we're moving forward in time and building our community, I've decided that from time to time, I'm going to give, we'll just call it door prizes for being a member of the society. So anybody who is a member of the society is going to get this template for free. I mean, you have to pay to be a part of the society. It's only $5 a month. But this one tool alone can make you a hell of a lot of money, whether it's your own money, a commission to help someone make a decision, or whatever it is. And it's just one small example of the kind of things that you get when you come to Does It Pencil training. So if you're a member of the society, what I'm going to show you next, you're going to get included. So let's take a look at the template. What I'm going to do first is show you the architecture of this thing, okay, just sort of how it's laid out, how it works. And then we'll go into the example from Carl's referral friend, okay? So take a look at the bottom. There's two tabs. One says General Information, one says Loan, Amort, or Amortization. So I'm going to click on this one. And you can see here, all of these cells are black, okay? So in the upper right-hand corner, there's a legend. Red is fill in, black is auto calc. What that means is on this page and on this page of the template, do not touch the black cells, only fill in the ones that are red. This section over here on the left is for the real estate. This middle section is for the other investment. And this section will compare what's called internal rate of return, comparing the two. Let's start first with the real estate. How does this work? So the first section here is for the purchase information. The price you paid, how long you're going to hold it, and importantly, the anticipated rate of appreciation. The next section is the financing. What's the debt structure going to be? And then in this section, we actually look at comparing the cost of occupancy for owning, which is this part, and renting here. So an assumption this template makes is you got to live somewhere. Okay, so we're either going to take our $100,000 in our example and we're going to buy the house, or we're going to go rent something and take our money and invest it in something else. Okay, last section will contemplate the real estate sale, and the bottom line here is going to be the net sales proceeds of the sale of the house and the value of the stocks. Okay, with everything washed through. This part over here, the internal rate of return, you have IRR buy and IRR rent. I'll explain what that is in just a minute. But let me just kind of be brief here. Internal rate of return is a pretty important thing. We do a lot of it in Desert Pencil. It's something you need to know how to do. I'm not going to get into the weeds about IRR today, but just think of it this way. It's the most complete analysis of anything you're going to own for more than a year. Okay, so if you're a day trader of stocks or you're a flipper of houses, internal rate of return doesn't really matter. But if you're going to hold anything for more than a year, IRR is definitely the tool that you should use. Okay, so that's the basic layout of the template. Let's go through an example. So let's start here with the purchase price of the real estate. $500,000. That's red, so I filled in. You can see some of the black ones populated. Holding period is 5 years, and the anticipated rate of appreciation is 4% per year. So at the end of the 5th year, you're going to have 608,326. Okay, that's just simple time value of money. The loan to value is 80%. That's a conventional loan. That means that our loan amount here, auto-calculated, is $400,000, and our down payment, auto-calculated, is $100,000. This $100,000 is the cash that you would have, and it's the same as this $100,000 over here. Okay, this one copies from here. So whatever this one ends up being, this one will become automatically. We'll assume you can borrow money for the loan at 6.5%, amortized over 30 years. So, and 12 payments per year. So if we come down here to real estate occupancy, ADS, annual debt service, is $30,339 per year. That's principal and interest only. So if you're in the real estate industry, that is not PITI, it's P&I. We have separate lines here for taxes and insurance. But before we go to that, let's go here to the loan amortization page. You can see it's all black, so it's all populated. It's every payment for 5 years or 60 months. Okay, that's as long as this goes. And it's month by month. But up here is a summary of every year of the 5 years. So the annual debt service every year does not change. What changes every year is the interest you pay, the principal you pay, and the balance of the note. Okay, back to the real estate occupancy on the general info page. So for a $500,000 house, it depends on where in the world or America you are, but I'm in Washington State in the upper left-hand corner, so we're going to say it's $2,000 for a year for property insurance. Okay, you put that in, that's why it's red, fill it out as needed. So the template defaults to a rate, a millage rate of 1.5% of the purchase price. That's why you see the $7,500 here. Again, depending on where you are, America or otherwise, you can fill that in as needed. But the ownership cost is just about $40,000 a year. Okay, so in my market here, a house that you would pay about $500,000 for would probably rent for about $3,500 a month. So we'll put 3,500 times 12. Okay, your mileage may vary, but you fill in what you think the rent would be for equivalency for a 12-month period. All right, here is the price you think it's worth, the payoff, and let's assume closing costs of 10%. Now, I would apportion those as 1% in on the front end as a buyer and 9% on the back end as a seller. You can put whatever you want. I'm just going to put in 10%, and that's what you'd have at the end. All right, so this is the real estate portion. And what this does is it's figuring out what the net sales proceeds are when you contemplate all the different costs of owning. Okay, now the other investment. Let's start by assuming that you can make 4% a year, same as the real estate. Okay, that's all you have to do. It's the same 100,000, and at the end you would have 121,655. So the first thing you can see here is there's a lot of disparity here. Okay, why? Here's why: leverage. Because in the real estate scenario, you're controlling a $500,000 asset with $100,000 of cash. It's the $500,000 that's appreciating at 4% a year, not the $100,000. In the stock investment, it's the $100,000, the cash equivalent, that's appreciating at the anticipated 4%. Okay, so you got a big disparity here. Let's interpolate this, and I've already done this before you showed up, but let's do 11.75%. Okay, that gets us almost at par with the real estate investment. So the first thing we can see from this analysis is that you'd have to earn almost 3 times more than the real estate investment to get the same amount at the end, which, given the way the market has been the last couple of years, is about where we're at. You know, historically, since 2008, the S&P's returned about 12.3. So you would be ahead. And real estate, in a lot of places, has only gone up about like 1.5. You would still be, see, look at that difference, right? That's a big difference. So, excuse me, 1.5 I meant to say here. Okay, it's still a big difference. So last couple of years, all things being equal, you would have been well ahead on your appreciation had you put your money into, this would just be an S&P fund, but you know, I've seen stock portfolios have gone up 30%. You would be well ahead if that had been the situation. Okay, but let's just keep it at 11.75 to keep them the same. Okay, and this would be at 4. Okay, so we're about the same. All right, now let's go over here and look at the internal rate of return. They're almost the same. Okay, now these are negative because it's all costs that you pay out. Okay, you're netting the sales proceeds of the house here at the end here. You're netting the value of the stock portfolio here at the end here, and the occupancy costs aren't that different. Okay, but what if you made 4% the same as the real estate? Look at this difference. Okay, negative 33.64 for renting versus just about negative 19 for buying. Okay, so you can see from this template is that a couple things matter. One is the rate of appreciation. The other is the value of the stock portfolio. Okay, now what happens with internal rate of return is that most of the weight is put at the end. Okay, so this assumes 4% annual appreciation. If we get 11.75, you can see here, these two numbers are almost the same. That's why the IRR is almost the same, because these didn't change. What happened was your assumption about your rate of appreciation. But the beautiful thing about this sheet is that it shows you exactly the information you need and how to organize it to make the right decisions about money. I don't know about you, but I think it's probably the best video ever produced.
It didn't have any writing.
And by the way, I did call it leverage. That's exactly what it is.
Well, I guess I'll have to go remake the video. And I know I got the story off a little bit.
No, it was great. It was great. Yeah, and the other part is that she, if you leveraged it against a $500,000 home, 4% appreciation on 500 is 20,000. So if you had to put $100,000 down, there's your 20% return. That was good.
Yeah. Jeff, what did you think of that video?
Academy Award worthy.
Totally. I need to get a text from Quentin Tarantino or something like that.
I thought you did a good job of kind of dangling the bait out there for people to be intrigued that are going to almost find it impossible not to follow your breadcrumbs and see what comes next.
Yeah, that's the point.